What is your story? That's what we're going to talk about today. Today is day 26 on my, oh my gosh, day 56 on my daily posting journey. And I'm going to get in your business today, and we're going to talk about the power of your story, what even is your story, and why you should share it. So if you're new here, stick around and please watch until the end, because I think this will be probably the video that you should watch if you have not watched any yet. Okay? And if you have not watched any yet, why? Go watch my other 55 days. They're also equally important. But what is your story? That's a question you may have asked or is asking yourself continuously, because you either think your story has to be the coming from the bottom, nothing, up to the top, or at the top and shining even brighter. But what about the in-betweens? What about the uncertainty of just knowing if your story mattered? When I started my YouTube channel, I started it on one story, which is lessons I learned from my dad and my personal entrepreneurship journey that I have just been trying to figure out for myself. Because yes, even though I am in close proximity to 30 plus years of entrepreneurship, that does not automatically translate into me knowing what I'm doing, because I don't. I've attempted multiple different business ventures, and many of you don't know my name, which means I've still not accumulated that level of success that I would desire. But that entrepreneurship experience is just one part of my journey, right? That story is what I started my channel on, and I've evolved it into many different aspects of my story. Now, more famously, my relationship with money. So if you're wondering what is your story, I want to tell you, you're multifaceted. So your story has many different layers, just like you have many different layers, right? If you're an entrepreneur, your entrepreneurship journey is a part of your story. If you are on your improvement journey, which I'm assuming you are since you're watching my channel, that's a part of your story. If you are a parent, that's a part of your story. If you are a student, that's a part of your story. Every single thing, your relationship with money, your finances, your career, all of those things are parts of your story, and they are a story in their own rights. The thing that you keep holding on to because you think is embarrassing is probably the thing that's going to get you to the place that you're trying to go. I didn't want to come on here and talk about it. I have had a relationship with money that is still evolving, but it was never in a place where it made me comfortable enough to want to talk about it. And probably that's why I hid behind just talking about entrepreneurship content, because that was not personal. That was something that I knew and I could talk about without getting into the nitty-gritty of where I'm at. And so when I was faced with just being in my own space and not understanding how to bridge the two personalities that I was experiencing at the same time, I couldn't even post on my channel. I felt like a fraud, not because the content wasn't true, but because I didn't feel true. I didn't feel like in that space what I wanted to talk about was business, because there were many different elements of me that I needed to pay attention to. Most importantly, my debt, which made me feel like just a prisoner in my own life. And so ever since I decided I'm coming back on here to talk about what I want to talk about, not trying to just make it about business if I'm not feeling business right now, but make it about me, because all of these aspects are a part of my journey, and I am the total package with all of these different stories. But it helped me to see that even if I position or pivot to another angle of myself, I'm still talking about me. It's just a different version. It's the version that is a lot more personal, and with this version I can talk about the different things versus when I just make myself a business and I disconnect from my personal self. I didn't want to come and talk about my money because I didn't grow up with a good relationship with money. I didn't understand why I was working so hard and still was just constantly getting into debt, and it felt like the money was just slipping through my hands. I didn't feel like I had control. I didn't feel like I had power, and I frankly didn't feel like anybody would care about my story. Like, what is so unique? Bad relationship with money. The truth is, many people have that story. Many people relate to it. Every single time I post a video, I get a DM or a comment from somebody saying that they are so glad I talked about this because they felt it. They just didn't know what to say. They thought they were alone. They didn't know anybody could relate. All things along the lines of your story is not just about you, and sharing it helps you to unlock your full potential, but also everybody else who's hearing you. What if the thing that you're holding on to could be the difference between somebody changing their life and not? What if the thing that you're holding on could be the difference between you changing your life or not? You think people are going to see you less than just because you have a bad story, but what if that's the thing that's going to relate to you? And yes, maybe you're talking about it too much and you feel like it's annoying. I have felt that way many times. I have talked about my relationship with money until I'm tired of hearing it myself. And I question, are you also tired of hearing it? But I say, every time I talk about it, it reaches somebody new, and that's the whole point. I talk about this story that is probably very repetitive too, like when I was in grade 4 and my maths teacher was doing the same equation for like a month straight. I don't remember if it was a month, but for a very long time straight. I was annoyed and I expressed my frustration. The next time she came to class and did the math problem, I said, again? With a loud outburst. Everybody in the class turned around and looked at me, and even my teacher, who clearly felt like I was trying to test her competence, so now she has to punish me. So what did she do? She put her problem on the board, called me to the front of the class, and told me to solve it. You guessed that. I got it wrong. I got whooping in front of the entire class. Not only was I embarrassed, but I left class with my butt burning, or my hand. I can't remember where she put it. But that situation told me and taught me a very important lesson. Repetition is king. Because of the repetition and the whooping that I got, that's why I still remember this story out of many things that happened over 20 years ago. This one story lives forever rent-free in my head because it was a concept that was teaching me that repetition is king. So if I need to talk about my story 5,000 times for the right people to get it, I am doing myself a service and everybody else that needs to get my message. And even if there are people who think that your story is just so mundane and they're tired of hearing it, the right people still need to hear it, and it doesn't matter. Right? Because if they're so tired of hearing it, maybe they're not even the right people that needs to hear it. And it's okay if you feel embarrassed to share it. I'm not saying everything should be for the public ears. I think there are some things that should still be kept close to you, but your story in general, you can present it in a way that makes you comfortable, but don't omit the parts that you think are embarrassing, because those could be the very things that somebody else needs to hear, right? Maybe somebody needs to be inspired by what you went through and to see that they can become somebody too. Maybe they need to feel like they're not alone in their situation and their life also has purpose. And maybe you need that reminder when you share it and somebody else tells you how inspired they feel by what you went through and and the fact that you're still here showing up regardless of your journey, right? I talk about, oh, I never had a good relationship with money. And when I was in my discovery process within the last 5 years, I'm still in it, but within the last 5 years of just trying to understand how to create a better relationship with money. And I was at it alone. I didn't have any support. I didn't have a community. I didn't have anybody who was walking alongside me in it. And there were many people that I knew in my life that were on their own separate journey too, but I was not aware enough to the point where we were on the same level for me to even understand certain things. So that kind of pushed away certain support that would have been there. But there are obviously journeys that we have to take alone, because sometimes that's just what you need to do to understand the thing you need to understand. But out of that experience, I was able to create a plan for myself. I was able to understand how to get to that freedom. I was able to understand how to structure myself to be able to clear off my debt and to create options for myself. And I was also able to create my 30-day reset because of my experience in that process and what I had done. I was able to package it in a way that can help other people. Right? And all of this was just something that I thought was just mundane, and I'm just talking about my experience. And because I wanted to come and talk about where I'm at, I just started talking about random things, but this is my story. And all of it is, the business part of me is my story. My college journey is my story. My finance journey is my story. Like all of it is. And there are different parts of your story that are going to resonate with different people. And that's why the multifaceted experience matters. Not everybody's going to relate with your death story, with my death story. Some people may never have had a bad relationship with money. Some people may have had a great relationship with money and they're doing well. But maybe they can relate with my career story because many people went to college and cannot find a job within their respective fields or is doing something that is emotionally draining and they just cannot fathom what their life is going to be like and if they're ever going to get to the dream, right? Maybe somebody can relate to the failed business experiences. Maybe somebody can relate with being in the US, going to college in the US, wanting to return to Jamaica, trying to build wealth there, trying to understand the different structure in the economies. There are so many different things about your life that may be relatable to others and may be unrelatable to others, right? But the key thing is there's nothing you are going through right now that nobody else on the entire planet is not going through or has not been through. So there is still something that you can share that can be beneficial to anybody else outside of your space. I had to learn this my own self because I thought nobody would really even care about this part of my journey. And so even when I didn't feel connected to the business only content, I kept pushing through it because I was getting engagement, people watching my videos, and it's something that I knew very well, very familiar, but I was disconnected after a period because there's just so much to me. And like I talked about in my video yesterday, you don't need to box yourself into one specific thing. There are many elements of you that are just as interesting or even more interesting and even more relatable too. Because yes, you can be good at money and yes, great at creating options and all of these things, but everybody who's listening to you wants to know that they can connect with you, wants to see that human side, to see that you're not just a robot just reciting some knowledge that you've heard in a textbook or that somebody told you even in person or that you listen to on a podcast. They still want to be able to relate to you in some way, shape, or form. And every part of your story has that human element that reminds another person that, okay, I can listen to her story. She went through this and she achieved that. Some of my favorite type of content to listen to is just entrepreneurs or people, regular people, anybody who's just gone through something that was just like really awful and come out on the other side. And the reason why I love to listen to those content is because I just like to hear different elements of people's stories. Like, not because you see somebody looking all glamorized means they never had an experience that was just really tumultuous. Like, everybody goes through something that shapes them into the person that you encounter. And even if your story is different from theirs, there are still a lot of relatable parts. And it's just so fascinating to me to hear other people's story because you can never just judge somebody by what they look like. And it inspires me to see that if they went through something and they are here now, it means that there is a better version that I'm going to experience too. It gives me hope for a better version. And it helps me to see that things just don't stay the same all the time, whether bad or good, right? But I can even look back at my own life. I talked in my 53 lessons that I'm learning on my Rebuilding My Life journey about how I've mentally changed within myself over the last 10 years. There's been a lot of transformation. The way that I think, my perspective on many things have just drastically changed. And I could have not foreseen this 10 years ago. Of course, I was still like a teenager. But I couldn't foresee even how I would think a year ago. So there's constant change that is happening every single day of our lives. And we sometimes underestimate what's going on in our own lives because we're so focused on everybody else and not seeing how much we have changed, how much we have grown, how much we're evolved, and how much our story is important to anybody that could potentially be listening. And And there's always somebody who's listening. No matter how boring you think you are, there's always somebody who is listening. There's always somebody who is being inspired. There's always somebody who wants to hear more. There's always somebody who wants you to win. There are people who are becoming invested in you just by your story. People who you've never met and you probably will never meet. There's so much important elements of you that are waiting to be heard by anybody who is actively seeking for inspiration, which is practically everybody on the planet. Maybe they don't want inspiration from everybody, but they are looking everywhere. We are constantly looking every single where for inspirations. Whether it's through a gift, your story does not have to verbally come from your mouth. My story is verbally coming from my mouth because I'm talking on my YouTube channel, but there are a lot of ways that you can creatively share your story. Maybe you can draw, that's how you are creating art with your story. Maybe you make clothing, you're creating fashion with your story. You do hair, you're making styles with your story. Like all of those things tell a story, and there are stories all around us every single day that we don't really pay attention to because we think things just have to be verbally said. And one of my favorite sayings is less is more, because there's a lot that you can say without opening your mouth. And even though it's preferred that we can hear what you're saying, but there's so much different ways that we can train ourselves, our minds and our eyes and all our senses to really see the stories that are around us every single day. I started this video by asking, what is your story? And I know that you still probably think you don't, but I challenge you to sit down and try to assess your life and to see the different elements of you that could be something that can inspire somebody. I promise you, if you feel uncomfortable talking about it, it only gets better the more you do it. I never wanted to talk about my debt story. I was embarrassed to be in debt. I was embarrassed to just be reliving things that I saw in my spaces that I thought I just would not relive, without even realizing that I was doing it subconsciously. I didn't want to come on here and make it seem like I didn't have it figured out, because after all, I started my channel talking about business. And how can you be somebody who is so versed in the business world and not understand how your money is working, not understanding how to manage your finances, not understanding how to even be in a great financial place? And so those fears were trying to keep me stuck. And I didn't allow it, because, and the people around me also didn't, because every time when I just would not upload, they were constantly in my hair. Why are you not uploading? So it kind of felt like a force coming from many different angles, but also a personal desire for myself. Every single time that I've been away from my YouTube channel, I've always wanted to come back, but I just felt stuck in my own box that I created mentally that made me think I only had to come and talk about business. And so sharing the different elements of my story has made me a lot more comfortable to talk about it. And I want that for you too. I want you to feel comfortable talking about it. Maybe you won't start that way, because it did not start that way for me, but I feel a lot better talking about it right now. I can talk about it every single time. Probably if I go through my videos within the last 55 days, 56 days, I can probably hear me mentioning elements of my story in probably many of my videos. And I don't feel embarrassed anymore. Probably my first one I did, but no, I'm good. Like, I can talk about this, because at the end of the day, I'm proud to see the impact that it's making, but also in other people, but also the impact in me, because I don't feel like it's weighing over my head anymore. And I'm glad that I went through my own experiences, and I can help you to get through your experiences as well. So maybe your story is not being stuck financially, but if it is, you are the person that I created my 30-day reset for. And the link will be in the description. And that is for you if you are trying to go from financially stuck to having a plan. Because a lot of times we overcomplicate how we get to the life that we want. And I don't want to oversimplify it by telling you just planning. But I want you to tell you planning is essential. And on creating a plan, being aware of where you're at, where you're trying to go, and creating a plan is the exact step. Maybe it's a little bit more that needs to go into it, but that's like the framework, right? And we just need somebody to walk alongside us and to give us support so that we can feel our confidence coming back to us, because everything is already within you. You just need people to bring it out, and having a supportive community is the right place for it to come out, right? So if that's the space that you're in, and that's the part of your story that you're in right now that you're trying to develop, you can check the description for that reset. And if it's not the finances, if it's the other parts of you, I don't know how you want to share it. Maybe you've been thinking about this for a while and you're been stalling. And maybe this is your sign that now is the time for you to start. Take it serious. Share your story. I don't know if it's through a YouTube channel. I don't know if it's through a book. I don't know if it's a podcast, if it's your heart. Whatever it is, you know what it is for you. I want you to take it up on yourself to share your story, because it could be the difference that changes your life and people who are you don't even know that are watching. All right. I hope this was helpful to you today. And I want you to win. Since you're on my channel, investing in yourself, this is a very great first step. And I want you to take it to an even greater level. All right. So continue investing in you and share your story, because it matters more than you think. All right. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining the Invest in You fam. If you have been a loyal subscriber, welcome back. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this video with anybody that it could benefit. Your friends, your mama, your grandma, all the people in your life that are trying to hide behind your lives. Like, let them know, come to the front, okay? And give the video a thumbs up if you found it informative. Comment below what stood out to you, what is hindering you from sharing your story. And yes, please follow me on all social media platforms at Khrista-Lee Amor. That is TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And I will see you in my next one tomorrow. Let's go make some mistakes. Bye.